Hey, BTB buddies, it's me, Scott. We're going to get right into it without an intro because this is just an announcement podcast. This is not an interview. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm moving my release date for the Behind the Bits podcast to Tuesdays. The reason I'm doing this is because Friday's just not the best time to upload a podcast because nobody listens on the weekends. And then the other reason is it's just a time crunch for me because I'm very busy during the week, and having the time to get the podcast ready properly, if I have some time during the weekend, I can do that better. So coming up Tuesday, I'm going to start my regular release date, my new regular release date, and it's going to be Joanne Filan. Her episode's coming up this Tuesday. She's a great New Jersey comic, and then from then on, it's just going to be on Tuesdays. Most people listen on Tuesdays and Wednesdays anyway, so I think it'll be fine for everybody. I just wanted to put this here as a placeholder so you know that I'm still doing the podcast. While I got you, I'm listening to a lot of other people's podcasts, and it's kind of hard to do when you are making your own podcast because you get all caught up in your own stuff and you forget that other people have podcasts. So when I take my 3.5 mile walk every day, I am listening to a new podcast or a new episode of a podcast I like. Some of them I'm listening to are the Kerrit Podcast. That's Gerrit, Elzinga, and Kevin McCarthy. And they just talk about random stuff. It's one of those podcasts where you get kind of caught up in the personalities of the guys and you want to keep listening to find out what they talk about next. It's a great podcast, and I absolutely love what they do. They've been doing I think they're at about 60 episodes now, and it's a great podcast. The other one I'm listening to is This Better Be Good. Gerrit, Elzinga again, and Mike Logan. So what they do is they review a movie before they see it, and then they see the movie and they review it again and kind of match up what they thought they were going to see versus what they actually saw. So it's kind of a different take on movie reviews. It's really good, and it's funny, and it's informative at the same time. So it's a really good podcast. How to Survive in America is from Robert Jenkins. He was a guest of mine, and this is the synopsis of the podcast. This is the story of a man on a quest to learn skills that will help him survive if Trump wins re-election. Robert is basically interviewing people to help you get the skills to survive if America goes to hell. And we get into an apocalyptic situation, like growing your own food, getting shelter, taking care of money, medical stuff. So this is like a very informative podcast. And whether you have an apocalypse or not, it gives a lot of good information on how to take care of yourself versus relying on others. So it's a great one. It's called How to Survive in America. He's doing, I think he's doing it seasons. So he's a few episodes into the first season, and then he's going to take a break and then come back. Really good podcast. Another one I just discovered is called There You Go by Trent Mabry. Trent gives advice to people who ask for advice on some pretty weird stuff. And it's nice because it's a really short one. I think anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. And it's very funny because people ask for some weird stuff. And, one guy asked about trying to get his family member to stop making prison meals because he just got out of prison. So it's funny, it's short, it's great for a quick commute to work or whatever. Really funny podcast. Another one is the Mike Banks Show. Mike Banks is from over in the Crown Point area, and we've actually done a couple shows together, and he's talking to local comics. He's talking to comics both from my part of the world, which is a little bit east of Crown Point, and he's talking to people in his area. And I got to tell you, this young guy's a very good interviewer, and the podcast is fantastic. If you want to see what comics are doing around our area in Northwest Indiana, Northern Indiana, then it's a great podcast to listen to. It's called The Mike Banks Show. I love it. I've given Mike some feedback because it's a great podcast. A friend of mine, Drew Kiespert, so we've been friends for it's got to be like 30 years now. And he used to work for me at Wendy's when I was a Wendy's manager. He was helping his friend start a podcast, and I kind of helped him get set up with the stuff that you need to upload a podcast, record, and stuff like that. And so they started the Pressing the Limits podcast, and Jon Bruney is a host of that. And the whole purpose of this podcast is growing the whole person through mind, body, and spirit. And they talk to different people, and they get some pretty famous people on there talking about, how to get your mind right, how to get your body right, and just be a happier, better person, and some of the struggles you go through doing it. So it's a really neat podcast, and I enjoy what they've done with it. And some of the interviews are great. And I got to say that, being a whole person through mind, body, and spirit, I talked about taking those 3.5 mile walks. I do a fast walk instead of a run because I just can't run anymore. And it's made my life so much better. I can't tell you, I make sure it happens every day as long as it's not raining. And if it is raining, I do something else to get my heart rate up, but getting outside definitely helps, especially in these times. So that's really it. I mean, I'm listening to some podcasts. I'm moving to Tuesday. I've got the Dream Guest playoffs going on. If you've been to the Facebook page, the Behind the Bits Facebook page, you'll see that what I'm doing is I'm putting comics against each other. These are the comics that are like people I really want to have on the show, and they're my Dream Guest playoffs. I've got a bracket and everything going, and you vote for the comics, and the comic who wins goes through to the next playoff, and I think I've got 3 more rounds to go. And at the end of it, the comic who wins is going to be pursued relentlessly by me, and I'm going to document that. So getting up somebody on a podcast is not as easy as you think it is. Sometimes you have to go at them several times before they even acknowledge you. So what I'm going to do is show what it takes to get somebody who's probably out of my league on the podcast. I've got people like Letterman, Mark Maron, and stuff like that on there. So, it's people who would probably not be on this independent podcast, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you how I make phone calls, how I write emails, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the stuff to get the guests to notice me, the potential guests to notice me. So the winner of that's going to be the one I go after, and then I'm going to just keep going after them until the time that they actually come on the podcast or put a restraining order on me. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that I can actually get that person on and not get the restraining order, but whatever happens, happens, and you'll get to see what it's like to get somebody out of your league on a podcast. Also looking for feedback. I got a lot of people listening. Let me know what you like and what you don't like, what you'd like to hear. So you can email me at scott@thebtbpc.com, or you can message me on any of our social media stuff. The Facebook's the easiest. You just go to Behind the Bits on Facebook and shoot me a message there. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Guests you'd like to see. If you want to be a guest, if you're a comic and you want to be a guest, just shoot me a message. I'll definitely talk back, and I'll definitely get back with you, and it'll be great. Tuesday is going to be a great episode with Joanne Filan. Thanks for listening to Behind the Bits. I appreciate it.